Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ryan Eastman, coming to you live from Las Vegas for round two of the FBA Draft. In the booth solo to start with tonight, I think Marcus maybe had a little too much to celebrate. So just gonna be me for now. Maybe they'll find some random people off the street to bring in to add a little spice. Now, jumping down to the stage, we're gonna have obviously last night Hugo Livingston announced that he would not be able to attend tonight, so we have Ross Fieldstaff, a weasel who works for the FBA front office, will be handling the announcements tonight. So let's jump out to the stage live as he gets us started here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ross Fieldstaff. I'm sorry that our beloved commissioner can't be here with us this evening, but I would like to kick off our second round with just a little story of my own, just following in his footsteps. So, as a boy, like everyone here, I grew up loving basketball, and hey everyone, Kingsley here. I will be handling Rourke's usual role today for the second round of the FBA draft. I will be messaging you for your picks as you come up on the clock. Uh, Make sure anything that comes up, any trades, any deadlines, any news that you need to handle, message it to me. I will be taking care of all of that today. You will each have 3 minutes to do it, a much shorter time than for the first round, so we can get through this quickly and get the draft completed. Uh, but let's just handle this nice, quickly, no real instance, and we will have a great second round of the draft. And that is how I ended up working with the FBA front office. But you're not all here for that, anyways. So first up on the clock is the Lorraine Firestorm.
Yes, and just like that, we start round two of the 2023 FBA draft. It is Lorraine starting us off here tonight, despite having one of the better records last year, having traded for this high second round pick, an opportunity to pick up one of those valuable on the cusp players or one of the two top 24 that slipped just outside of the top 24. We have Curtis McCartney at center and Connor Parks at guard, still available on the board. Now, keep in mind, Lorraine's pick earlier uh, I guess late last night, was Zhao Jing, a center also for uh, potentially looking to have some backup in case Edwin or Tyreek ends up leaving the Lorraine Firestorm in this offseason. So you have to imagine they might go a little bit different with this selection here, or this high pick, even though they have a guard and a center of the top 24 still left available. I'm personally leaning more towards the guard, just looking at depth, or possibly looking at one of the three forwards that sits on the cusp, Kellogg, Maddox, or Vontae. Uh, any of those would be good depth to add to the team, especially as they are more than likely going to try to keep the two starting bigs that had such an impact on them this last year and help them have one of the best records of their season or of their team's history this past season. And actually, I think Fieldstaff's already got the first selection in hand. Lorraine was ready to go. I guess that's the benefit of having all night to think about it. So let's cut down to the stage.
For the 25th pick of the FBA draft, the Lorraine Firestorm have selected Curtis McCartney. Up next on the clock is the Las Vegas Wildcards.
Well, and one more top 24 is gone, one remains. And now it is the Las Vegas Wildcards, a team with so many picks in this draft on the clock. Here we go. Lorraine picking a center, a little surprising considering they just picked one up, but perhaps trying to really build that depth at that position. They don't want to risk injuries slash losing one of their main players that could be a problem. So let's jump on over to Las Vegas, who's already made a couple selections. As I said, this draft, they selected all the way at number two, Brandon Baylor. I think that might be part of the reason why Marcus is in here. I wouldn't be surprised if I find out he was in his room a little hungover. And then with the 23rd pick, they picked Melody Parker Smith, a guard. Uh, so you have to imagine maybe they're going to get a complete full house here, or sorry, go for a full straight here and go for a forward to kind of fill in that middle spot. They have their guard, they have a center. Now they kind of need to help finish out their forward depth here. And again, that goes back into okay, well, the cusp players are on the board, but there's also a lot of strong furs in the non-top 24 that LVG could start looking at here. Now, LVG is not going to be off the clock for long because they do also have the 28th overall pick. So even if we don't see them pick a forward here, they're going to be right back on the clock with plenty of options available. As I think they have a total of 5 picks this draft. They could pick every position if they wanted to, and they would have no issues doing so. So wait for the pick to come in. The addition of Brandon Baylor obviously is going to have an impact on what they look to going forward with their big fur depth. Haven't heard any rumors about whether or not they're going to bring back Ivy Robbins or Nikolai Volkov, but it is obviously something that's on the minds of fans. The team did really well last year. They don't have too many things they really need to improve on. Maybe a little bit more luck going their way, but the loss of Tyrone Gale, you have to feel like they need some insurance preparing. You have to assume they're going for a free agent, just given how much money they have available now that they've locked in one of their bigs. But that does not mean they're guaranteed to go here, given how many opportunities they have. Then again, it wouldn't surprise me if they picked 2 forwards here. They could easily pick here 26 and 28, one of the 2 of the best forwards available, and just have them battle it out, see who comes out on top. Maybe not be as a starter, but be as their top 6th fur on the floor. Looking at the team as a whole, they are looking like a team that needs some long-term contracts as well. They only have 2 players signed besides Brandon past next season. And that is a difficult thing. And I think the pick is in. So let's jump on down, see who they've selected.
For the 26th pick of the FBA draft, Las Vegas Wildcards have selected Connor Parks, a squirrel from Elion University. Next up on the clock is the Edmonton. I can't remember their new name.
Excavators.
Excavators.
Well, there goes the final top 24 ranked player here at 26. A bit of a surprise going guard after they went guard just a little while ago with the 23rd overall pick. But then again, they could be just completing their collection. This could be the shooting guard they're looking for, depth wise. And again, they'll be on the clock after this pick, so plenty of time for them to complete their collection. But now it's Edmonton back on the clock. Questions of who they will go for here after selecting Fiora Lopez with the 11th overall pick, a guard. Opportunities here, looking at their roster. They also, news announced last night that Xavier Clark agreed to the 5-year contract with the team. So signed for quite a while, going to be locked up, able to develop as a player or as a main factor of the Edmonton Excavators alongside Zachary Cooper is locked in for 4 years. So you'd almost say leaning guard here again would not be surprising with Nur agreeing to sign with Hawaii last night. Really just leaves Raymond Lee on the floor as their guard and this new draftee, Lopez. Obviously, I think there's going to be some competition between the 2 of those to see who comes out on top. But it does leave questions about their bench. The only other guard they have, they didn't have another guard signed beyond Lee and Lopez. So wouldn't shock me here. Guard coming off the board. I think Parks, had he fallen here, would have gone off the board. Luke Dunbrock would make sense here. Any of the other guards, Magnus Bake, Wayne Broadbeck, Wilson Atkins, any of them would be a common sense pick here. I would be shocked if they ended up picking one of the few centers left that fell outside the top 24 just because of locking in theirs. They don't really need to spend picks on something that they've locked in. They could be considering it if it's a big concern on depth of not being able to find someone in free agency to back up Clark and Scooney. Considering they have no other centers signed under any kind of contract going forward. But a team that has been a bit of a rebuild, especially with the rebrand last year. Locked in Zachary Cooper long term. Now they've locked in their Husky long term opportunity to possibly stabilize a franchise that has struggled on and off over the seasons. With Scooney Barrett coming in, an opportunity to kind of help provide a veteran presence, but that contract value a bit of a handicap in terms of being able to go after free agents. I was a little surprised they went with Lopez, considering they could have gone after a center at that point to learn behind the veteran Otter from Hawaii, who they traded for, giving up Eric Toivonen earlier this year. Does create an opportunity for uh, some rookie to come in or some free agent to come in and actually have a chance to learn behind a veteran and have a good opportunity to take over next year. And I think the pick is in. So let's jump down to the stage.
For the 27th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Edmonton Excavators have selected Jennifer Kalug, a female Siberian tiger from Atlanta Philadelphia University. Up next on the clock is the Las Vegas Wildcards.
Well, they went forward, and at 6'9", a little small for the power forward position, but potentially able to help out in the post. So not a terrible pick. They needed depth overall, and they went with one of the ones on the cusp. But now we are back to Las Vegas. Last pick was a guard, so I have to wonder they're probably going to move away from the guards now that they've picked one. They picked two guards, a center, probably a forward here, as if I had to guess. That leaves Maddox, Vontae, Darcy, Klim, and Ryan Eastern as the main forwards I see on the board still. If they wanted to go a bit center, they could go Cassandra Dixon or Dreamheart or Ivory. But I have to imagine after selecting Brandon so high, they're probably not going to pick another center. A team that has still one more pick on the board even after this one, with plenty of time uh, to to figure out who they're going to pick after this one. They have time to weigh the odds and watch how the chips fall, so to say. And I do believe the pick is already in. LVG flying off the board quickly here tonight.
For the 28th pick of the FBA Draft, your the Las Vegas Wildcards have selected Jasper Fenton, a male rabbit from Ohio State Mammalian University. Up next on the clock are the Santa Ana Spectrums.
Well, they went guard forward. I guess technically that does start contributing towards the full house. You know, they have a someone who can play small forward. Now, perhaps with the last pick, they'll pick a pure forward to be able to play power forward. just so they can say they have one rookie of each type. But either way, now it is Santa Ana on the clock. I believe last night they had a very late pick. The sixth overall pick. They picked Sabathia, who is a center, and I believe they're pursuing Peace as well. So I have a feeling their center positions have locked in, and there is that big gap at small forward with the retirement of Lee. You have to imagine that forward here, with so many on the cusp still available, might be an opportunity for Santa Ana, not necessarily to grab someone who's going to be a day one starter, but someone who has an opportunity to develop and might become their full time starter eventually. But they have a lot of free agents still in question. Kiara Hughes and Aditya Angun, both pending free agents, seeing if they will return or if they need to bring up Benjamin Aquino to take over as the starting point guard. So we let the clock wind down. Have to have in mind the Santa Ana was a team that came off of a championship and was strong for a couple years, but it started to slip a little bit. And you feel like the loss of Tyrese forever ago, traded to Bangor, was starting to see the end of this main core lineup. Have to imagine if Seba will be returning or not, along with the other two main guards for this team. Kiara Hughes, a big All-Star week. Uh, I want to say, uh, I want to say fan. The fact that she's performed so well in the dunk contest and three-point contest, and it looks like the pick is in. So let's jump down to the stage and see who they've selected here.
For the 29th pick of the FBA draft, the Santa Ana Spectrums have selected Vontae Guattieri, a Ocelot from UFLA. Up next on the clock are the Santa Ana Spectrums.
And Santa Ana back on the clock immediately. They picked up a forward here. They get to kind of restart. I'd almost hope they'd have their pick in mind, unless they have any ideas about waiting to see field contract any trade offers. But you have to imagine picked up a forward here. Maybe go with the guard now. They have a center, a forward, and a guard. Would make sense to go with. Even though looking at the big board, who's left available? Luke Dunbrock, top 24 player, or on the cusp player. And it looks like actually the commissioner is heading back to the stage, but I don't see an envelope in hand.
There has been a last-minute trade. Santa Ana Spectrums have traded their 30th pick of the 2023 FBA draft for the Bangor Tides' second-round pick for the 2024 FBA draft. The Bangor Tides are now on the clock.
Oh, well, there we have it. A trade coming in. Bangor jumping up here, giving up future draft assets to get on the clock as the clock does restart for them. Have to pull up a different team now. I was looking at the Santa Ana Spectrum's roster, see who they could go with here. After last night, they selected Angel with the 7th overall pick after trading up and losing Desi in a sign and trade, while gaining Ivan from the Pittsburgh Keystones as well. Looking at the roster right now, they have a point guard with Andrew McDonald Rainbow signed, Ash Van Zant currently playing small shooting guard, but could slide over to small forward if needed. And obviously, Ivan, perhaps maybe looking for him to be the starting power forward, at least considering how few players they have signed at the moment. They have quite a lot of flexibility of what they can and can't do with their team, but questions of how strong they will be if they are not able to grab some high value assets. A rookie here might be able to start day one just due to that. Considering that they have their center now, I wouldn't be shocked either if they went with forward here. The idea of potentially replacing Randy or having them battle it out with Ivan for that starting power forward spot. Currently, only one forward is left on the cusp, and that is Jesse Maddox. But there are plenty left outside the top 24 rankings that they may have found a bit of a love for and choose to go with them. In fact, I do believe they have the pick ready and are sending it to the stage now.
For the 30th pick of the FBA draft, the Angor Tides have selected Darcy McRae, a armadillo from University of Eastern Ontario. Up next on the clock, we have the Pittsburgh Keystones.
Well. They did go forward, reaching down outside the non-top 24, but pulling one in. 6'7", definitely more of a small forward than a power forward build, which makes sense if they're looking at potentially replacing Randy Mackenbach long term, or even this year, a chance to fight for it against Ivan. As now Pittsburgh finds themselves on the clock. They walked away with a big signing last night, getting Desi, and I can't help but think that they increased their chances already by bringing her in. They drafted a guard forward in Nora last night with their 8th overall pick, and now an opportunity here to pick another one up. I'd have to say, looking at the team, their guard probably fairly established now. They might want to. I keep going back to the forward position. Chantal Magnano, perhaps the starter going into this year. A question will be what happens after her contract ends. They also signed Wei Jing last night to a 2-year extension. So at least able to potentially fight for that starting spot after being extended. Margaret Warrior has established herself as one of the better centers in the East, locked in for 3 more years. So you really don't have to worry too much about finding support for her, especially because they have Timothy Svengard locked up as well, at least as a backup, potentially coming in as a starting power forward next year. It'll depend on how the training camp goes and who comes out on top. But they've committed a significant amount of their cap space already to those two positions. So now it's just finding a bit of depth and support. You almost feel like their starting lineup is fairly set at this point, as I do believe they are ready with the pick, and we're going to jump down to the stage.
For the 31st pick of the 2023 FBA draft, the Pittsburgh Keystones have selected Ivory Banks, a North American river otter from Ohio State Mammalian University. Up next on the clock are the Seattle Summit.
Interesting selection. They went with the center after I just finished talking about how uh, they've already got such a strong center there. Obviously, feels like a depth pick. Maybe a bit of luxury here, grabbing a center just so that they can add a little bit of depth at that position. Even that might actually be indicative. Desi might be the future small forward for this team, and they might have plans to have someone else take the power forward, small forward spot, which would make a lot of sense if they have concerns about Chantal long term going forward. So an interesting prospect there, possibly seeing Desi slide more to the small forward spot. As we head on over to Seattle now, made their first pick last night. Sorry, no pick from them last night. They traded away their first round pick for Andreas, who entered free agency off of renegotiation. So they're They have questions at guard. They have questions in depth, and this is one of those situations where best available might come to mind just so that they have uh, the best talent available on their team, even if it's not necessarily the immediate need because their needs are in flux right now. They don't know if they're going to be able to bring back Andreas. If they bring back Andreas, they obviously don't need to really be looking at shooting guard, point guard, possibly. But if they lose him in free agency, that's a massive issue now. They need a guard, and you don't want to gamble here by picking what you think you might need and end up not needing it, or a bigger need presents itself. So I think Luke Dunbrock here would be my thought with Leon coming back from his injury and Andreas in question. The best available guard makes sense. Looking at their small forward position of Wayne Kirkpatrick locked in for another year. They have some center depth with Ackerman, but you have to question how much free agency they're going to be able to play with the cap space they're having to commit towards Andreas in order to retain him because they've renegotiated Ziara Tipton. Tipton creating a uh, bit of a hole now. They almost feel like you have to go with one of the few remaining centers on the board, which if you look at that, that's Cassandra, Dreamheart, Phasma, and that's it. There's only three centers left on the board. After all that talk about round one having so many available, it's just all gone now here in round two. Vast majority ended up being selected in the first round or ranked in the top 24. And in fact, I see the Ross heading to the stage now, so let's head on down and see who Seattle picked here.
For the 32nd pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Seattle Summit have selected Dreamheart Glitterpaws, a Samoyed from Fairview University. Up next on the clock are the Tallahassee Typhoons.
Well, they did go center in the end. It makes some sense after they got rid of Ziara in renegotiation. You know, just a little bit of depth there. It looks like they're not too concerned about their guard. I would be a little bit more concerned about their guard situation, but going with the center here is a safe pick. That's always a something that is in need. So not a surprise here. But now we are going to look at Tallahassee. Tallahassee last night selected the player that fell the most. I know it looked like I was kind of picking on him, uh, but Francois made it all the way down to ninth, which Tallahassee's going to be super happy about ending up with that pick there. Getting the second ranked player all the way down at number 9 is not something you can ever really plan for. So it is a happy day for them, but now it might draw some questions of long term what they're going to do. Obviously, they have Aurora Hopkins under contract for one more year, but now they've brought in another guard with a very high pick, not necessarily to compete, but to play alongside potentially, especially with Rin still on her last year. Martin signed for another 3 years, so you have to imagine he's going to stick around at the small forward spot. I talked a lot about drafting a center last night. I feel like now, with only a few centers left on the board, this would be the time that a center comes out and gets picked here. I'd have to imagine they don't want to leave some holes in their roster. Don't want to risk losing out on um, one of the few remaining centers in this draft. I don't think Tallahassee has another pick. Let me double check. No, they do not. So this will be it for them tonight. After them, we have two Queens picks coming back to back. Looking on ahead at the Tallahassee, a lot of players, a lot of free agent openings for Tallahassee with opportunity to definitely start early for a draftee here, depending on how their free agency goes. Carson Good and Aj Martin are the only two that are locked in over multiple year deals at this point. So any rookie being drafted tonight has time to be on the roster. with Rin still almost certainly going to not be returning unless it's in a support role after this season. That shooting guard spot is very wide open with the rest of the roster needing some depth. Again, not a no issues here with who they pick. Um, they need depth at every position, and it's all depth at this point for the most part. You could definitely try and find some uh, gems in the rough. You know, players that have been a bit overlooked, have an opportunity to stand out, but they're going to need some development. And I think the pick is in as the clock has run out. Let's go down to the stage.
For the 33rd pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Tallahassee Typhoons have selected Jesse Maddox, a male honey badger from MMU. Up next on the clock, we have the Queen's Pride.
Well, they went with the forward. That is an opportunity to fill in some depth behind Ash. Not really built like a power forward at only 6'8". So a little undersized if that was their goal, but opportunity to fill in depth. They have only one other forward locked up on a contract, and that is uh, the veteran Umechi. So someone he can definitely play alongside and learn with. But now we have the Queens who have double picks, back-to-back picks for the Queen's Pride. They get to pick their next two unless they decide to make a trade. A team that has mostly finished filling out its roster, you feel like, after signing for Tyrone Gale. A big acquisition. The question that still remains is that point guard spot with, uh, you know, Inari heading into free agency. Will they try and bring her back? Can they afford to bring her back? Last night, their picks involved none because they traded away that second overall pick. So they had no first round selections because of that. So this is the first we're going to get to see of the GM's draft strategy here tonight with the 34th and 35th overall pick. With Luke Dunbrock still on the board as the top guard, would not surprise me maybe them going there just to add a little depth. But then the question is, what do you use with the second pick? As that would be the last cusp player, and I have no more cheat sheet to go based off of. Looking at the team as a whole, they drafted a center last year with Alan Clemens, and they also have Iverson under contract for another 2 years, Connor McQuaid under contract for one more year, and Tenma under contract for one more year. So that is a lot of bigs at the position. As we head into the final minute, we'll have to see who they go with here. As I do believe the pick is in, so let's head down to the stage.
For the 34th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Queen's Pride have selected Lila Koo, Arctic grayling fish from Yellowknife First Nations University. Up next on the clock are the Queen's Pride.
Well, they went with a guard here, which is what I was thinking. But they again, Luke getting a little passed up here. Not saying they couldn't also pick him here. At this point, it's just a question of where he will fall to. Now, how much does Queens trust in their bigs right now? They have two still on the draft board they could go after with Cassandra or Phasma. Both of them would be good selections here. But how are they looking to build the rest of this roster out? The idea of them picking a guard here does lean some credence to maybe needing a little insurance just in case Inari is not brought back. That does not mean, though, that they can't slide Thompson over to point guard and have Gale take backup shooting guard duties. They definitely have a starting roster that they could roll with based on what they have now. Thompson's definitely more of a 3-point shooter, in my opinion, so it is. Uh, I like her at the shooting guard spot more. We saw a great performance at the 3-point contests in All Star Week. Isn't necessarily able to uh, generate. Uh, I think the space on her own, she needs a little bit of a help. As we wait for the second pick, back-to-back picks from the Queen's Pride. Thankfully, the graphics people don't have to do much changing, given the teams are staying the exact same, unless they trade, and then that would be a heartbreaking moment for everyone in production. But looking after the Queens, we have Oregon and then San Jose Thrust. Opportunities for both of them, and the Queens again pick up from Edmonton. Again, a lot of trades they made. They picked up one from Arizona with the last pick, and then this one is from Edmonton. So Edmonton ended up with a very high pick thanks to Williamsburg and got over to this much later second round pick. So they're done for the night. Arizona is also done for the night. And I believe the pick is in. Let's jump down to the stage.
For the 35th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Queen's Pride have selected Phasma Schermerhorn, a giant prickly stick insect from. Oh, I'm sorry, there's no school here. But up next on the clock are the Oregon Swashbucklers.
Yeah, a player who came in a bit of a shock in the combine, considering you know our highlights mainly consisted of street ball highlights. Uh, Definitely impressed at the combine. End up getting picked here 35th overall, joining the Queen's Pride. They did add more depth at that center position. And now we head to uh, Oregon, a team that we talked about a fair bit last night, a team that underwent a rebrand who has performed very well after leaving Texas. I feel like they have an opportunity to really compete now in this new division they find themselves in. With this 36th pick, who will they go with? They last night drafted Kent McDonald, the guard. We talked about him being a potential replacement for Marcus Knight, as he has definitely been in the league a long time, and you have to start wondering when that drop off is coming because uh, players try to outrun Father Time, but Father Time always catches up, and uh, there's not much you can do. You can only delay the inevitable. So they picked a guard last night. Looking at their roster, their starting lineup is already established. So at this point, they're just building depth. They did sign Harper last night, so that's another good center depth added. So I don't think they need to necessarily draft the last center here. That is Cassandra. I feel like they can avoid that. They don't have to go with another center here since they have already kind of established some of that depth with Tafer Hendricks also on their roster. Could see maybe a forward going here, trying to cover that small forward, power forward position. Clem and Ryan both available still. And then after that, we get a lot of guards. And I think the guards might be the last on the board, unfortunately, for a lot of teams that may be forced just to pick what they have available because there's not a lot of forwards and centers left after the first round. We had a lot of them come off the board before guards, and we saw teams start slipping, players start slipping because of that. As we're halfway done with the first round, we only have one center. Or sorry, halfway done with the second round, we only have one center left, and we only have two true forwards left. We have two swing furs available, and then the rest are guards. One of which is a on the cusp player, still looking to get drafted, Luke Dunbrock, third brother of the Dunbrock siblings. Have to imagine one of them is fighting for him in their GM's text right now, trying to get them, convince them to draft their brother. Montana, obviously, with the very last pick, has an opportunity to do so if, for whatever reason, he's still all the way down there. And it looks like time is almost out, and they have their pick in. So let's come on down to the stage.
For the 36th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Oregon Swashbucklers have selected Luke Dunbrock, a grizzly bear from Winchester University. Up next on the clock is the San Jose Thrust.
Well, that is the last on the cusp player gone, and it is Dunbrock finally off the board, joining Oregon now. They went double guard with this draft, but then again, they might have concerns about Lisa after this year as well. Might want to start developing someone behind them just in case she ends up leaving in free agency, or if the cap situation is not favorable to them, they might want to just replace her with someone a bit cheaper. But then again, that's a whole nother year away, and Dunbrock has an opportunity to learn and grow, have a chance to fight for minutes on the floor. Let's jump on over to San Jose now, who last night selected a center, Marara, off the board at 13. Have to imagine they're probably not going to pick a center here since they did last night, unless they really are that desperate, that concerned about their depth that they might take Cassandra. I think more likely we see one of the swings come off the board. At this point, it's just a guessing game of who do I think the GM liked the most in their interviews? Who do I think they enjoyed, or who do they think who made the most impact on them during that interview time? As after San Jose will be Winnipeg and then Tennessee. Still quite a ways to go before we reach the end of the draft, but players are coming off the board quickly. San Jose currently only has Damian Myers, Kat Tolsino, and Joseph Na under multi-year contracts. So after this season, depending on how free agency goes, there's going to be a lot of questions about how they go forward with this team. And speaking of, San Jose is ready with their selection, so let's jump down to the 37th pick.
For the 37th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the San Jose Thrust have selected Cassandra Dixon, a female Griffin from Corvid Community College. Up next on the clock are the Winnipeg Voyagers.
And with that, the last center is off the board. It happens almost every year that we run out of centers before we run out of guards, but uh, a little surprising this early, considering how many centers were on the board last, and the fact that San Jose picked a center already. But they really want to hoard some of that depth down low. You have to question if they have concerns of Adam returning or not to San Jose. If the Frog will, in fact, be leaving, might be a concern on their minds. As now Winnipeg is on the clock, so we'll have to jump on over to their roster and look at how they're doing going forward. Last night they drafted Creed Atwood at guard. Might question whether or not that means Martineau is coming back or not. But as we mentioned last night, every single player uh, past the shooting guard position has been in the league for 8+ years, and you have to have concerns about their longevity. Uh, if Cassandra had fallen this far, I feel like she would have been picked here, but got snatched up right beforehand. Could see Winnipeg reach, or not even really reach, just go for one of the few remaining forwards they have. I feel like their guard position has been pretty locked in with Baltave, Caliber, Josiah, and Mike Timmons, the long-term veteran, already under contract, and the fact that they just drafted Creed Atwood last night. But then again, they may also have a guard that they really fell in love with during the combine, a player that they feel can add to the team and be a challenge, maybe be a long-term prospect. It's just looking at who's available. Devin Gundy, Klim, Nikolai, and Eastron. Those are the four that are able to play or have known to play outside of just the guard role, with only two of those being true forwards, the other two being swing furs, who tend to slide into that second slot at shooting guard. So we're a bit undersized, more focused on speed. As we continue on, minute left on the clock for Winnipeg. As the pick is in, we'll jump down to the stage as Ross takes the podium.
For the 38th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Winnipeg Voyagers have selected Devin Grundy, a male bumblebee from Queen City Central High School. Next up on the clock are the Tennessee Moonshiners.
Well, they did pick one of the swings, not a surprise there. Able to hopefully add a little bit of depth at that position. Um, with Tennessee now on the clock, again, we talked about them last night, a team that uh, made it all the way to the playoffs last year, has an opportunity to try and repeat this year. Sorry, made it all the way to the finals last year after a great run in the playoffs, coming in as a seventh seed. An opportunity to continue adding to their success. They have a great center power forward combo, and they've locked in their MVP for a couple more years. So they don't need to worry too much about star power. Now it's going to be all depth. So wait to see who they select. Last night they selected uh, Marina Hodgins, the forward, with the 15th overall pick, the 14th ranked player. So you don't expect them necessarily to go in with a forward pick here, even though there's so few left. Probably going to end up just picking one of the best guards available just to add some depth. And I think I finally have a friend joining me in the booth. I won't be alone anymore. They've sent help. Thank you, Samson St. James, for joining me.
Hello.
How are you doing,
Good to be here.
Samson?
I'm doing great. How have you been? It's been quite a fascinating draft we've had.
That it has been. We've had a lot of pre-draft trades that resulted in teams ending up in weird places. But not only that, just a massive amount of picks now getting handled by individual teams even. We have LVG with 5 picks this draft. That's quite a bit.
It is.
Uh,
Well, we'll save on moving costs for the players who are already here.
well, they didn't bring their whole house with them, Samson. I do think the pick is in, so let's jump down to Ross as they're announcing the 39th pick now.
For the 39th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Tennessee Moonshiners have selected Adrian Tham, a male rabbit from, again, no school this time. Up next on the clock are the Bangor Tides.
Well, they ended up going guard like I expected, but I want to hear, Samson, your thoughts on round two so thus far. Any surprises for you?
Um, oh man, I should have prepared better. Ah,
Well, what I'll tell you my surprise. I'm surprised Bangor traded all the way back up to 30.
that is surprising. Yes,
I
I
mean,
don't know if that's something that necessarily needed, but
well, and they took Darcy, who, Darcy McRae was a forward. So maybe they kind of saw the situation where down here at 40, they may not have any forwards left, as we only have two true forwards on the board um, available for them. But okay, I'll give you a little easier one. What about last night's first round? It surprised you?
seeing Brandon Baylor go so early was a bit surprising based on his rank. But
I'd agree. I think Marcus, a little bit of shock too. That's why he's not here. Uh, it I think LVG we all thought forward just because of the trade of Tyrone Gale, but they must have really loved the Bear and wanted to lock in a center, a potential generational talent. Um,
yeah, the first round there was it was surprising. It was surprising how few surprises there were
well,
in some respects, considering what we're used to around here.
as as I was complaining last night, the first round was boring. 22 of the 24 first rounders were selected in the round, and no reaches outside the top 24 until we made it all the way down to the 23rd overall pick, which that is unheard of um, accuracy in rankings. As I do think the commissioner or the commissioner's assistant is ready to announce the pick here.
For the 40th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Bangor Tides have selected Nikolai Jackson, a male Northern Goshawk from North Star University in Eastern Ontario. Up next are the Albany Alphas.
Well, another forward guard off the board, leaving only the two forwards left. Um, we didn't really get a chance to talk too much about Bangor, as they did make that trade earlier to draft a forward, but now they've picked a swing for. That's a little surprising to me, but then again, maybe they're just hedging their bets.
I agree. It seems that at this point in the draft, forwards are at a premium, certainly.
Yeah, well, we've lost all the centers, so I guess forwards are the next best thing. But again, Bangor had so many needs, it makes sense for them to draft, who they think is the best available. Who we think the best available doesn't matter anymore. And now looking on to Albany, a team we haven't really talked too much about. Last night they didn't have their pick was sorry
Keith
Keith,
Wayne last night.
yeah, the center, one of the few centers uh, that kind of, I don't want to say fell. He was ranked 18th, got picked 17th. Kind of ended up in another draft. He would have been probably a top 10 pick, but selected overall. Brings up some concerns about how they're feeling with Waterston, if they're going to be able to get him back. But I think we might see another of those forwards come off the board here just to start learning behind Kivars. I think Marcus brought up last night, Kivar's been around a while, so it wouldn't be shocking to see him start losing some minutes soon.
Yeah, I agree. They would want some more depth in the forwards. They've got they just locked down Akiat Pratt again last night, didn't they?
They did. It was another signing they just announced. Longest contract they have available right now on the team, but you feel like they've locked in their starting roster besides Cassius. That's the only question that's still left.
Well, the fact that they can't draft a center here would be good for Cash is feeling welcome.
I mean, they've already done it, so. But I mean, I feel like that was an insurance pick more so for learning behind Kivar. At this point now, Terry, they have to keep in mind, is on his last year, and the Wolfhound's going to command a contract that I don't know if Albany's going to be able to easily afford after this year.
Very true.
So, who's left on the board that you like? I mean, there's not a lot of options left. You can even just stick a finger out and pick one if you want.
I'm just gonna say Wayne Broadback. He there's something about him that I kind of like.
I mean, definitely could see. There's so many guards left. You almost expect a guard has to come off the board at this point. Talk about Wayne, 6'3", 200 pounds, the giant oarfish. We've seen a lot of um, aquatic species this past year getting into the league and doing great things. Obviously, Desi just talked about her signing with Pittsburgh last night in a sign and trade deal, so it's going to be a uh, big opportunity for all these players to have a chance to step on to the main stage. And I do believe, speaking of, there is a pick in, so let's jump down.
For the 41st pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Albany Alphas have selected Magnus Bach. Okay, sorry. A Black Norwegian elk hound from Alfred Katzner Universitat Leipzig. Up next on the clock are the Dakota Bikers.
Yeah, not a surprising pick. They did go guard, very young guard at that. 19 years old, coming from overseas. An opportunity potentially to learn behind, Akiak and Vastenhoot, and if Vastenhoot ends up leaving in free agency, has a chance to maybe jump into that starting discussion. But a couple years to learn. Now it's Dakota. Questions about what they can do here.
Is the question.
Yes. Not many players left on the board for them, especially with that, again, only one forward left. And
By the same token, they don't have many slots on their roster to fill. They've got most of their players under
yeah,
contract.
well, I was gonna say they're like last night I mentioned they didn't really have a lot of work to do this free agency. It's all dependent on the John Lawyer decision, and if it causes problems if he leaves, and if they're back in contention uh, immediately if he stays. It's gonna be that's the question of the Bikers off season. The draft itself, they didn't do anything crazy by trying to sign anyone. They didn't try and move up massively on the board. So I think the pick is in. So let's jump down and hear what Ross has to say.
For the 42nd pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Dakota Bikers have selected Ryan Easterin, a North American river otter from Clybourne University. Up next on the clock are the Plymouth Taproots.
Oh, there we go. The final. I think that's the final forward off the board. No, the Hillam is still left
No,
on there. One forward left.
Another otter. And interesting that Dakota did not go for Sylvia Walker. It's worth noting that her mother was a Dakota biker in the past.
Yeah, well, considering they still have one whole pick left, they 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 have an opportunity in a few picks to select her. If she is not off the board by then, I think the forwards would not make it. But with the one forward left on the board, we are now looking at Plymouth at 43 on the board. Last night, they selected Tejon, who slid a little bit down. It was ranked 16th overall, went 19th. I think they're very happy to pick up someone to learn behind Jake Turner. And possibly,
Absolutely.
I'll say possibly even play beside him, depending on how Belmare plays this year. Do you think they? I mean, obviously, with how many guards are left, you'd have to assume perhaps they're going to go guard here, or do you think they'll take Klim as the last forward just to get the last one available?
I would definitely go guard in their position. I think. Uh,
Well, yeah,
Lamb seems like Lamb seems like a very risky choice from their background.
fair. I mean, right now you look at their team, everyone besides Poitier is under a 1-year deal, and currently Tori is in free agency, so you're looking at trying to bring him back, but you want to have a little bit of a uh, insurance plan in case that doesn't happen. Trevor Cruz is going to be going into free agency next year. A lot of players, a lot of contract space will be opening up after next season, but that means some of these players are probably going to command quite a bit of that. You have to imagine Trevor after the championship. Uh, he didn't really sign a super expensive contract, but he's kind of been the face of the league, or sorry, face of this team before the league. One of the highest scorers on the team. So you wait for their pick to get in.
They are another team with a solid starting lineup who just needs a lot of out of backup.
Oh yeah, I mean you look at the backup they currently have signed. You have a couple forwards with Gary and Romeo signed. Poitier obviously, so I think forward depth is actually probably one of their safer areas. They don't have to worry too much about. The guards, they have Sheila Starr signed for a year, and that's really it. Everyone else is a forward or forward guard combo, and it does look like they have their pick in. So let's see what Ross has to say for himself.
For the 43rd pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Plymouth Taproots have selected Sarah Greenblood, a female hamster from Atwood College. Up next on the clock is the Huntsville.
I think the podium cut out a little bit there, but it's the Huntsville Mares who are on the clock. After,
I think that this seems like a very good choice for Plymouth to me.
well, I mean, her last name is Greenblood. Obviously,
And
Plymouth had to pick her.
no less she's from Massachusetts.
Like I said they had no choice. It fell in their lap. They had to do it. And that addresses the guard concern a little bit. At least now they have a little bit of depth in case, even if they do get Tory back, they don't have to worry too much. As we look at Huntsville now, Huntsville last night they selected uh, Nora Collins, a guard. So I don't want to say I feel bad because they have so many guards left on the board. They probably don't need to if they went ahead and picked a guard last night. They have Neo locked up. They have Fash locked up for many years. They don't
Yes.
necessarily need more guards. So I kind of feel like this might be where Hillim comes off the board just due to need alone here. Especially with only 5 picks left remaining total. We're getting right at the end. Things are definitely getting a little bit sparse of what options you can and can't make here. I said Huntsville, their starting lineup is pretty much set for the most part. They have 3 players locked in for 3-year deals. It'll be 2026 before we see a true free agency from them.
Indeed. I'm just looking over their lineup right now.
Yeah, like I said, Neo and Lauren are locked in guards. They're
Yeah.
very young. They're gonna have plenty of time. Ogun's starting to get a little older, but I'm not that worried about him yet.
He's been a very solid contributor for them.
Yeah, 2015 draftee. You know, at the end of his contract, there might be some concerns about his longevity after that ends. So I would be careful in terms of preparing for that. You don't want to be surprised when a player drops off. Injury concerns are always something for the bigs you worry about. They could be fine for 10 years and then suddenly they have a knee issue and it slows them down. So it looks like we're gonna let the clock expire before we get this pick, but only 5 left to go, so not many players left. I'm sure the expectations for these players are getting high. They know they have to have their name called soon, or else they're going to be restricted free agents. And in fact, I think the pick is in as the clock ran out. Let's go down to the stage.
For the 44th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Huntsville Mayors have selected Alex, a golden retriever from Biloxi State. Up next on the clock are the Santa Ana Spectrums.
Well, they went with the young guard, drafting Alex.
The boy's so good they named him twice.
Yeah. Let's not ask Alex what their middle name is, because if it's Alex, I'm just I need to go to AAA then after that. But Santa Ana got this pick from Lorraine, and not many options left. Obviously, 4 players we could see going here on our draft boards. Santa Ana picked a little earlier this night. They grabbed Vontae, who's a forward, so that pairs nicely with their uh, center pickup. So it makes sense now if they wanted to go one of the 3 remaining guards. They could grab a little bit more power forward depth with Lim, but they don't have to do that either.
Indeed.
As
Well, they already picked up a forward tonight with Vontae.
yeah, but just in terms of sheer depth going for it, because they obviously lost Lee. I mean, at this point, anyone's fine. Like I said, at this point in the draft, you're looking at depth. You're looking at future development. You're not necessarily expecting these players to come into the league and take them by storm. Um, Especially for these teams, because these teams have had one of the best records last year, so they have a pretty strong lineup as is, unless they got absolutely gutted. And I think Ross has the pick in. Let's jump down and see what it is.
For the 45th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Santa Ana Spectrums have selected Wilson Adkins, a male dingo from Edinburgh University. Up next on the clock are the Dakota Bikers.
Well, that's one of the guards gone. 2 guards left and one forward left.
That's a solid choice. I can't argue against that choice.
Yeah, again, they kind of needed I would go with a guard just for some safety, just a little bit. I'd be afraid of what happened. So now back to you. You thought you were surprised Sylvia Walker wasn't selected here, or with Dakota's last pick. So do you think this is where maybe they take her, considering she's still on the board, or do you think they're going to go with the other guard or Hlim?
Personally, I think, given her history, if they don't select her, I would be insulted. If I were her.
I'm
At this
gonna
point.
start a fight on draft night. Well, the pick actually is in already. A quick turnaround. No elephant tonight, so we're able to run across the stage a little quicker this weasel.
For the 46th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Dakota Bikers have selected Sylvia Walker, a female opossum from Ohio State Mammalian University. Up next on the clock are the Las Vegas Wildcards.
Well, you got your wish. And that is another guard gone. Now we have a guard and a
And a forward left.
forward. And oh, it looks like Commissioner is already back, either with a really quick pick or announcement to make.
The Las Vegas Wildcards have signed a trade with the Seattle Summit. The Las Vegas Wildcards will be receiving Seattle's 2024 second round pick, and Seattle will be receiving Las Vegas's 47th pick in tonight's draft. Up on the clock is Seattle Summit.
Well, now this is interesting because,
This is.
well, the point, a future pick, unless Seattle wins next year or finishes in second place, they just gave up a better pick. So, what are they seeing with these two remaining players that they want? This is interesting. I'm curious to see.
Who of these two players did they want badly enough to make that trade? That's very.
Or do they trust themselves so much that next year that they're going to have a very low pick no matter what? Because if they do finish like tie, if they have the best record, they could theoretically actually come out on top in this. But that's a lot of gumption to assume that you're going to have a great season next year after one of your players is coming back from an injury like that.
Well, the alternative is that Las Vegas looked at these two players and just said, nah.
Well, Las Vegas literally got to draw 4 cards from the deck and got 4 great players potentially, so they don't really need to have this pick. This is their pick too. It's not even one. This is their original pick. They traded for every other one they had. So you have to wonder, Klim or Wayne. You talked about Wayne being someone to keep an eye on. Did you cast or curse Wayne to go 48th overall, though, is the question.
Well, it might have happened. I might not be wearing my lucky horseshoes today.
I don't think you need to be wearing them. I think you need to give them to Wayne. That's the problem.
What does a fish need horseshoes for?
Luck.
Oh, of course.
Hey, I mean, they can. You need a lucky horseshoe to play slots in Vegas. You got a rabbit's foot and you got a horseshoe. You need both of them. Just waiting on Seattle. A little surprising considering they traded. They did not have the pick ready to go. Maybe some discussion going on. Last minute debate about which of the two really is the one they want here. I'd have to lean Hlim just due to the fact that they renegotiated away that pick. I mean, they picked Dreamheart, so they at least have a center to kind of make up for Tipton's leaving. But their depth needs a bit more work. And I believe the pick was slid in as the clock expired. So let's see what they have to say.
All right, let's see which side of the coin they flip to.
For the 47th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft, the Seattle Summit have selected Wayne Broadbeck, a giant oarfish from Baltimore Bay. Up next on the clock are the Montana Howlers.
Well, I guess the luck rubbed off just maybe a little late. Wayne going 47th overall. Again, the guard is understandable why they would go here just due to depth concerns and possibly recovery from the injury and all that for Leon, and if they're even going to bring back Andreas. So I get it. It makes sense. Now, Montana doesn't really have too much of a choice, but we can pretend like they do.
Or they.
If they just void the pick, they don't do a pick at all.
Or they trade it, or yeah,
I
or
mean,
what
they
kind
could.
of
You're
sample?
right. They could trade. They could be shopping it around. Like, hey, does anyone want them? Please, please. We're the champions. We can do whatever we want. Uh, but like I said, it's been a great draft. Any kind of takeaways from your thoughts as we're waiting on this last pick to come in?
Uh, some interesting choices, but I'm excited to see where this goes next year. There'll be some good teams to watch. It's, it'll be interesting to see how Las Vegas is able to incorporate all these new rookies into their squad. How they make this work for them.
Yeah, I feel like they've done this before, where they had a ton of rookies come in, and I
Also
mean,
true.
they kind of just like pick and choose by the end of who they actually like, and they kind of just move on from the rest, which I'm not gonna say is a terrible strategy. That's the thing with the draft is you never know. Pick wise, the first overall pick could be a bust, and the 48th overall pick could be, or even an undrafted player could be a future All Star MVP. You know, for every uh, Lance Wildfire, there's obviously gonna be the Jake Turners of the world. So every pick has to be taken carefully, and you can't just assume because someone thought someone else can't play basketball as good as the other. Uh, you can't count them out just because of that. No matter how many times Marcus and I argue about who should be the MVP, who should go number one, we don't know how these players are fully going to develop over their career.
That is very true. There have been some. It's hard to say if there've been more busts or more surprises over the years.
uh, I think we've seen a lot of non top 24 players stand out, and that is why the second round is still so important. We've had so many non undrafted players be major impact players. And speaking of, I think the last pick is coming down to the stage, so let's cut down there.
For the 48th and final pick of tonight's 2023 FBA Draft, the Montana Howlers have selected Hugo Livingston III, a male center. Wait a second. Our commissioner is not available as a draft selection, Montana. What are you doing? Oh, okay. I'm being told that this is a tradition here. I have been handed Montana's actual selection now. Uh, for the 48th pick of tonight's 2023 FBA draft, the Montana Howlers have selected Glengue Murmiku, a female raptor from Pac Territory University. And I believe I am being told now that the commissioner, our beloved Hugo Livingston III, has a message for you all.
That's right, everyone. It's me. That's right, everyone. It's me. I'm the 48th pick of the 2023 FBA Draft. Joke's on you. You can't get the drop of me if I'm not even there. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for your participation over the last 2 days, and I wish you all luck in the future on your new teams. Finally, I look forward to seeing all of you on the court once again very soon. Thank you all for attending, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Well, the commissioner got the drop on us this year. It seems like got his own little prank he played, but the final pick has been done. Congratulations to everyone selected here. Thank you so much for joining me and saving me from being alone here tonight. Uh, Samson, I really needed it.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
But I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we will look forward to this next season. Uh, can't wait to see how it plays out, and have a good rest of your day. And we will see you for the first sports dinner, which will be the Montana Howlers traditional Halloween, facing off against the San Jose Thrust. It'll be an exciting matchup, and we'll see you then. Have a good night, everyone.